I'm actually really like half nervous, half excited, one of those things. But and then Rich and Caitlin aren't here tonight, so I've been with an amazing volunteer team. I've been doing this by myself, so it's been interesting. Thank you. I don't want to say by myself because without all the volunteers, oh my gosh, without you guys today, I don't know what I would do. So thank you so much. And if anyone wants to become a volunteer, you just email the club at thrive@iereic.org. So all of you that come up to me and hey, do you need help? Yes. Sign up to be a volunteer. All right. So welcome. We have some sponsors in the room. So raise your hand if you're a sponsor. Awesome. So we have Evan here and Lee. And all we do is ask you to, if you need any of the services, so whether it be escrow or social media marketing or hard money, any of that type of stuff, hit up our sponsors first and give them a go before you go just to someone you found off Google. And then this is our Fire Focus, like tonight, right? Our Fire Focus events. So tonight is rentals. And then our second week, we have Evan and Jim Keller. I say Evan and then Jim Keller. Evan Brown and Jim Keller. They host the flipping and wholesaling group. And then the third week is, Evan again, Andy and Goodwin, and they do creative finance. And then Rich, the newest Fire Focus event is Mindset, and that's the fourth Wednesdays. We used to do Tribe Building on the fourth Wednesdays, but we moved that just to the fifth Wednesdays. So last week was a fifth Wednesday. So how many of you were there at the networking event? Yeah, cool. That was a lot of fun. So that's every Wednesday there's an event, except for next week. Nobody will be here. All of the staff and a lot of you members, we will be on a cruise ship in Mexico. So sorry, we're going to be on a cruise. So do not come on Wednesday. We will not have exchangers. We will not have the Fire Focus group. So Evan and Jim don't have a meeting this month. Okay, so when we used to not have events on the fifth Wednesdays, people would show up. So if you show up, I just encourage you, whoever else shows up with you, just go have dinner and talk about real estate and have your own meeting. But if you made it here. So I just encourage you to do that just in case. All right. And then some classes that are coming up. We have Lenny Nesmith. He's doing a kids financial education. So he is, one of the members here, she had her kids go, and he comes highly recommended. It is for 5th to 9th graders. I think you could plus or minus a year on that, but he wants to keep it in that same age group because if there's older kids and younger kids, can't really talk to them the same. So please tell your friends, family about that one because people are always asking for a kids class, and then so if it doesn't do well, then we won't have another one. So share that one, and then. Rich will be doing, what day does that say? I can't read the green. What day? March 16th. So he's doing a calculator class. So the reason he's doing that is because for Goodwin's class, Be the Bank, everyone, they want you to know at least the basic calculator, how to use the financial calculator. So if you don't know how to use it, you could take Rich's class, or if you've taken a class before, just any calculator class. It's just a prereq. So you guys could not be 100% lost during the class. So they just want you to have a basic calculator understanding. And then Goodwin will be doing his Be the Bank class on, was that the 21st and 22nd? 23rd, 24th. Sorry. And then John Schaub. I'm really excited. How many of you have heard John Schaub? Yeah? All right. I've never heard him speak by himself. Everyone that raised their hand, have you heard him speak? Just him. Yeah. You have, Randy? Oh, wow. Mark too? Okay. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I've only heard him speak with Pete or at Masters of Real Estate. So I've never had just 2 days with John. He has a very soothing voice, so it's very easy just to listen to him all day. So for those of you that know. And then me, Andy, and Adrian. Not a lot of people know Adrian, but some people do. He's on the East Coast, but we're going to be doing a mobile home, like Palooza is Wealth on Wheels, where each one of us will give our own perspective on how we're flipping mobile homes. And then Adrian, he rents them on land. So it's just a different perspective from everyone. And then I'm one of Andy's students, and I do things a lot differently than he taught me. So I'm pretty sure, Roddy, you've kind of adjusted here and there. Yeah, exactly. So, and then Pete Fortunato, oh my God, I'm like, for him to come out 2 years in a row, I'm so excited. He was here last August. So if you did not make it last year and you're really bummed because you heard everyone talking about how great Pete Fortunato is, he's coming again. So don't miss it. And last announcement, which I know a few of you brought books today. Thank you, Patrick, and someone else brought books. Me? That's it? Just me and you? I thought someone else brought books. Anyway, but we do have a bookcase over there. It is filling up slowly. It is a bring one, take one, not a take one, take one, take one. So bring a book, and then you could take one, and when you're done with that one, or you want to switch it out for another one, then bring that book back and then take another one. So free little library, a lot of good books in there. If you want any recommendations, you could ask someone like Evan, myself, Andy, Goodwin, and we'll point you in the right direction. Oh, there it is. Nothing next week. Okay, so Valentine's Day, be with your loved ones, or do a, Galentine's Day, or, anti-Valentine's Day, or whatever you want to do, but there will be no one here. So that's actually good. I repeated that twice. All right, so that's that. I'm going to switch over to my slideshow, and then we'll get started. All right. So how many of you are already landlords or housing providers? Okay, lots of you. Okay, I wanted to see. Keep your hands because I'm going to pick on you in a little bit. All right. Okay, good. And if I don't pick on you and you have something you want to add to the conversation, then please do. This is all of us, like I was talking about with the mobile homes, right? We all do it a little bit different. Of course, we want to be compliant with the law, but overall, we do things different. So I would love for people to chime in. I already gave Evan a mic because he has stuff to say. So if you do want to say something, just raise your hand, and I'll get the mic over to you. Okay, so that way the camera can pick it up and everyone could hear either your input or your question. All right, so this is very interactive. I don't want to just be talking at you. Andrew already gets enough of that at home. He knows I want a conversation. Love you. All right, so this is a 5-part series. So we already went over, preparing for opportunities, analyzing the rental markets, financing, and then and today is managing, the rental properties. And then next month on March 6th, we'll do asset protection. And then just a little bit about me, because I see some new faces that you guys don't know. I did, right out of high school, pretty much started at Costco, started working there, RIP Costco. I do not miss them, so I thought a little humor in there. So I did that, and then I got injured at work, and then I didn't know what I was going to do, and I know a lot of you have read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was my gateway drug into real estate investing. So after I read that, it was like, that's what I want to do. So I started doing that. I have been a housing provider since 2016. It was kind of an accident. I bought a condo when I was living in Colorado, and then I moved to California, and I didn't want to sell, so I rented. And I didn't even know that people did that for a living. So that was interesting. My first rental was a out-of-state, rental, and then I ended up selling it. I don't 100% regret it because the money I did make, I was able to reinvest. So I know the whole never sell a property thing, but it wasn't too bad. And then now we have 6 doors. I do count my room rentals as a door. So one of my houses, I rent each room, and there's 4 rooms in that house, and then I have a back unit, and then another house on my property. And I started flipping mobile homes in 2019. I'm currently a little over, I think I'm at 21 or 22. I was trying to count earlier, and I was like, it's over 20. So that's what I've been doing mostly. And then I do want more rentals. It's just mobile homes are working right now, and I absolutely love it. So, all right, so rental agreements. I'm actually not going to read the definition. If someone wants to read the definition, I'll go right ahead. And then I just wanted to kind of give like an idea for you guys. But it's just an agreement between the landlord and the tenant, right? And then it's important because you're protecting yourself and them. Everyone's following the rules. And I mean, mostly, I say mostly. I've gone through an eviction. I'll get there in a minute. And then a lease versus month to month. So you have a lease that is, 12 months long or predetermined amount. Some people do long-term leases like 5 years if you're doing a midterm rental or a short-term rental. And then you have month to month. So I personally have all of mine month to month. And people like, well, why would someone want a month to month lease? Personally, I like it because I can give them a 30-day notice. And then they like it because they can give me a 30-day notice. So and I tell them, as long as you're paying rent, you're taking care of my house, you can stay here as long as you want. I had one tenant. He moved in with us when we bought our house in 2019. He's given me his 30-day notice 3 times. And then the first 2 times, he just told me, I'm just going to stay. Can I just stay? I'm like, yeah. Like, he always pays his rent early. Of course you can. This last time, though, he's trying to move closer to work, so he actually gave me his real 30-day notice. So this month he's moving out, so I have a room opening in that house. What about you, Evan? What do you do month to month, or how do you do it?
We do everything on a 10-month lease, and then it automatically becomes a month-to-month if we don't change anything. So that's usually what we do. On some properties, we'll go back and say, we'll go back and have them sign a year lease, but it's rare. Normally, we just let it go to month-to-month.
Okay. Anyone else do something a little bit different that wants to chime in? Everyone does a 10-month or a month-to-month. Yeah? Okay, hold on. I'm coming to you, Roddy.
I can bring this to her.
I mean, I don't do anything different. I have properties in Ohio, but they're Section 8, so they make you do like a 12-month lease. But that's...
Yeah.
I generally leave it up to the tenant. Some like 2-year leases, some like annual leases. So that's the yearly lease gets more rent increases. They haven't figured that out yet.
And the reason why we went to a 10-month lease is California changed the rule that after someone had been there a year, you have to give them a 60-day notice to leave versus a 30. So if you do a 12-month lease and go, you know what, this really didn't work out, and then you want them to go, you got to give them a 60-day notice. However, at the end of 10 months, you could still give them a 30-day. So we just adjusted. That's why the first year is a 10-month lease. That's what we did.
I've got a couple different ways I do things. My nicer properties that I believe are going to appreciate, I typically will get a very good quality tenant, and I'll do a John Schaub type thing and keep them annual with rent increases. But I want them to be there 5-10 years forever is the goal. And I typically keep the rent slightly below market. Then there's the low income properties. Those I'm typically selling, but I will also do a lease option or lease until they have enough for seller finance, but I call it the yo-yo because about half of them I put out and they come back and come out and out. So a lot of times testing those people, I might do initial 3 months to see do they perform, because the lower end, they're a little tougher audience, and it's like, sorry, and typically if they do twice, I'll take them 6 months and then I'll convert over to eventually a sale, but I start out with leasing, oftentimes the first year, so it's long-term capital gains.
Here, I'll run it.
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
So you can stay.
I like to move around. I fidget.
This is basically like a comment. I have a tenant that I haven't renewed the lease. It's a commercial. I have 4 commercial places. 21 years. I haven't renewed the lease, add anything. Just I raised the rent twice in 21 years.
Can I come live at one of your houses? My mortgage is really high.
Sure. You'll be added to the new lease increment.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for sharing. Just one more sweep. We're good? All right. All right. Thank you.
I think we're in a measuring contest. I have a tenant that's been there 20 years, but they've only been with me for 5.
Got it. That's funny. Oh my God, I was all proud of my tenant that's been there 4.5 years. All right, so some components of a rental agreement. I mean, you're obviously making sure you put the rent in there, how long the term is, some rules, the security deposit. Didn't realize Andy wasn't going to be here because I wanted to talk about what he does instead of a security deposit. Does anyone use a rent lock? No? Can you explain a rent? I can't really explain it. Oh, did your mic die? Is it red?
It's red. It's red.
Okay, I will get.
Yeah. Okay. A rent lock is when you can, as someone's moving in, and say you agree that you've already pre-qualified them and they're going to move in, what some do is offer a rent lock where they'll pay, say, $200 or $300 more and move in to guarantee you don't raise rent the following year, the second, 13th to the 24th. I think it's a shop that uses that, or a Tilney.
I know Tilney does.
Yeah, so some people use it. I've never done it, but it's intriguing.
Yeah, and speaking of David Tilney, he does have a 3-day seminar. Was it Sunday, March 3rd, 4th, and 5th? First, second, third. I just remember it was the beginning of March. And he does like 3 days, like just on, property management and master leasing. So if you haven't taken that, that's something I highly recommend. I want to take it again. It's so hard for me to sit through Zoom. It's so hard. And he doesn't do a recording, so it's not like you can watch it again later. So anyway, but it's really, really good if you can handle Zoom for 3 days. Go for it. And then rules. I have a few additional rules because I have people that are singles, but they live together. So it's like the co-living or house hacking, however you want to look at it. Because I have like quiet hours. If they're going to have friends over, like anything over 3, they need to get their roommates' approval. So you just have like different types of rules in there. Does anyone else have any? I was hoping Rich would be here too because I wanted him to talk about parking. He's dealing with a lot of parking issues right now. But up in the mountains, you don't have a lot of parking space. So he says, here's your parking, and that's it. It's for one car, and he's gone through a lot of stuff with parking. Does anyone have a rule that they put in their lease that's like specific to you and your property? Everyone has a regular lease. Manny does. Do you want here? Let me walk this back to you. Oh, I'm gonna fix this one.
I specified in my lease that they couldn't have more people living there than the people that were on the lease. I don't know if that counts or not. For what you're asking. Awkward silence. Anyone else?
Yeah, I will say that on parking, I've had 5 units with one common driveway, and I've had more on that one property with parking issues on that property than all the other properties combined for the last 15 years for the 2 years I owned that 5 unit. It was just daily, no matter what, everyone did what they wanted.
Yeah, I'm actually in one of my rentals. The co-living house. Right now, the living room and the dining room are just used for storage. So I'm evicting the storage area, and I'm putting 2 rooms. So, but part of that is I need more parking. So the front yard is going to be more parking now. So I'm going to be doing a driveway and that type of stuff. But I'm going to have assigned parking spots. I'll have that in their lease. That type of thing. So thank you, Yesenia. All right. Anyone else? No, man, you guys are quiet tonight. Okay, thank you, Carl. Thank you.
Okay, so it's California law, 2 people per bedroom and plus 1 additional. So that's the limit of people that can stay in the house. Plus anyone over 18 that stays there over 1 week must have a rental application on file with me.
And I would look into that because 30 years ago, yes, there was all the limits to a room, but I've dealt with this on a couple cities, and there's many cities no longer have any limits on the number of people to a room. Because if you say, hey, I got a 2-bedroom and there's 2 of you with 4 kids, that can be a problem. And so that's a fair housing issue. So even though it makes total sense to have a limit, but then it's discriminatory for social people in a certain social economic bracket. So most cities have backed off that, even if they're still in the books. Yeah, so it's a just keep that in mind. That's all. Yeah, just with codes and permits and stuff, it's really
One thing I want to say about that is today's rules are that every single family property can have 4 units on there. That's the new codes statewide. And so if you've got a 900 square foot property and code says you can have 4 ADUs on there, you're not going to be having 2 people per bedroom in that situation. So I think what Evan was saying is correct, that you've got to check into today's codes because, they're constantly changing it. There's overpopulation. There's all these other things. But yeah, every single house in California has the ability to have 4 units on the property.
Awesome. Yeah, and then I was going to add, because you said we're talking about 2 people per room plus 1. I mean, because I'm not renting the house, I'm renting the room. It's a different gray area where I can make, I don't want to say my own rules, but it's different because they're not renting the whole house.
My understanding is you have allowances, and those of you know Matt from Formatic, I've asked him about this too. If you're a female that owns your house, you want to rent out your room. So are you allowed to say female preferred? And he said actually it's pretty much of a gray area, but that he's been known that some people can get away with it because you are allowed to, because you are living in the same house. Not an attorney, again, so just something that's a one time someone can do that and get away with that. But again, it's California, so otherwise, describe the property, describe what you're renting, nothing else, not suggest who should be there or who should not be there. You just describe the property. Cute, adorable house, whatever. Small, large, beautiful, whatever.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me that there's actually professional people that will go on and pose as a renter trying to find a lawsuit. So, yeah.
They're actively out there. Yeah. Yeah, there was an article, this goes back many years, but there was an article in the OC Register at the time where this gentleman had run an ad, and he did nothing wrong, but he still got one of those professional people that was hired by a law firm and going in, and they said, yeah, but this is still this perceived violation, $4,000 will go away. And he went to the Fair Housing Board, and they were like, you're right, but how much is it, you're right, you did nothing wrong. But the law firm didn't go away. They're like, no, we will sue you. So how much you want to defend this? So again, just describe the property.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your input. We kind of touched on laws and regulations already. You just got to be really careful. And then financial aspects, when you're analyzing a property, you want to make sure it's cash flowing. Different things you want to consider when you're looking at a property. screening, my favorite parts. I had one eviction. I mean, I haven't been, like I said, I've only done this since 2016. But I could tell you on my one eviction, I did not do numbers 2 or 3. I just trusted her. So, yeah, I bought the sob story, single mom, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I bought it. And I paid for it. So she was there 6 months rent free. Plus I had to pay for the eviction. And it went, I mean, luckily it was right after the COVID thing ended. And then we were finally able to actually evict, you know, without the COVID rules anymore. So I was very thankful for that. And Evan helped me through the whole thing. Thank you so much. Because he said, hey, your first one's the scariest, but once you get through it, you're fine. It's really not that scary. I wish I would have done it sooner. Well, no. I really wish I verified her employment and called her previous landlord and checked her references is what I wish I would have done. Anyone have anything that they do during tenant screening that they want to share?
For the tenant screening, don't just call the current landlord, call the previous landlord. Because we had a deal where the current landlord just wanted to get rid of them, told us how wonderful they were, cost us $13,000 to get rid of them because they called an attorney, said we were throwing them out, their children were going to be homeless.
Yeah.
Basta came into it, which is an attorney that helps tenants' rights. We settled out of court just to get rid of them. Otherwise, it would have cost us over $20,000. Oh. We would have won, but not worth the $20,000 plus.
Wow. Yeah, that's why I put landlords. Yeah, but thank you. I totally forgot I was going to mention that. Also, I use a property management app called Rent Ready. Some of you have probably heard of it. It does the background credit and eviction check. So it did all 3. So I have that one. And that's easy, right? The hard part for me was calling and asking the questions. And I was just like, oh, I'm nervous to do it. Yeah, so that cost me probably like $15,000 total in rent and legal fees. So call. That's my whole point. Yes.
There's a lot of games that professional tenants can play out there in terms of the way they lie and do a lot of manipulation. So I found that sometimes on the application, it's actually a friend vouching for them. So what I've done is I sort of dumb like a fox. I go and I'll change the address. So instead of 123, I make it 321, and then the real landlord will correct it. But the friend, they were just told what to say.
That's gold. Did everyone hear that?
and same with the rent amount. So I'll typically the address, the rent amount. I'll find something in there to change up a little bit, and then I'll say, was $975? No, it was $925. Oh yeah, I can see it better now here. But I've caught I've saved my ass, saved a lot of money multiple times by finding out they were lying.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to do from now on.
That is very smart. The other thing I was going to add was I've skip traced the owner of the house because, we know how to do that, yep. Right? A lot of us know. And then I saw the number on there and it matched the number that I was given. So I felt a little bit better. So that I did that way, but I really like that because if they correct you, that's...
Yeah, I've rented to a lot of people that it's their first apartment, so they lived with mom. So there was no verifying the rental history part of it. It was everything else I had to rely on more. But that's burned me, but it's also, I've had some great tenants as well. So, but if you do have someone that's just starting out, yeah, that can be an issue.
Anyone else have some? Yeah, Mary. And we'll come to Carl after.
Also, sometimes if you go to Facebook Marketplace and put your property on there, you can click on their icon and see what they're saying about their prior landlord because they love to talk on Facebook. And you hear all their stuff.
Facebook checks. Yeah, that's smart.
Yep, here.
I use a website called Truth Finder, and it's a subscription-based, and I agree that I will not use that to determine whether or not I will rent to them, but it gives me an idea of their background, criminal history, where they've been before, And it is not 100% accurate, but you know, it's, if they've got a couple of bankruptcies and unlawful detainers, it kind of sends a message to me.
Yeah, we used to use MrLandlord.com, which is is still a very good resource to learn from. But we use Apply Connect to run our background checks, and it's just a link we send, and it runs. It looks for everything. So far, it's been good. We've been using that for about 5-6 years.
What was that?
ApplyConnect.com. It's about $29, and the tenant pays. And then if there's 3 of them, because 3 adults, they can get a discount. Maybe it's $19.95, but if there's 3 of them, they save a few dollars. And what it does is it gives you a background check, civil, criminal, and gives you their credit score. And then with it, then there's a free application part that comes with it. So it's like a 2-part that each person has to do. But that's just what we use. I'm sure there's better out there, but that's what we use. Who uses something else?
Mary again.
No, I have a question. We normally use rental criteria that we include with all our applications. Do all of you use rental criteria? None of you do?
I don't list it. I know you list it on your rentals, right? You're like 2 times the rent or the credit score,
yeah.
your rental criteria.
You
No, I
have
don't.
to put your requirements when you run your ad. You have to. So make sure you do that. You have to have it in your ad. That's just one of the rules. Huh? Yeah, my understanding, you can feel free to check. It has to be in the ad. Jeremy, do you have a comment on that? Do you know if that's supposed to be in the ad or not? I know you don't handle that anymore. Okay. Thought I'd ask.
He has a team that does that for him, right? Your team does it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Eli? What do you do?
I have a property manager. They do everything.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. I think I'm on an annual lease, and they do background checks, and one before the house. I have one house that I rent, and before I was moving out, a couple came and they just wanted to see it, and they didn't want to use the property manager. They just said, we want it right now. And I said, okay, go talk to the property manager. They said, well, we can just do this now. I said, just go talk to the property manager, and they ended up not being the tenant. So
Right. Yeah, I wonder why.
yeah.
I will say this: one of the other things in California, who knows that California is first qualified applicant is who you pick. Who knows that? Who doesn't know that?
I know that, but
Yeah, you are not allowed to tenant shop in the state of California. It's virtually just banned. It has been for several years. If you live in the property that we already established, there's different rules that can apply. I haven't done that. I have talked to at length with someone like Matt from Formatic and said there are different rules, so I can't comment on that. But in California, if you go sell your house and you get 10 offers, you can pick and choose who's buying your house, as of today anyway. But as far as rentals, when you have people applying, once you post, the reason why you post your requirements, 3 times income to rent, 600 credit score, or 650 or 750, whatever you're doing, the first person that gives you a completed application, you are supposed to stop and pick that person. Because if you're still looking, what are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for a 700. Well, you should have had a 700 credit score posted. You can get in a lot of trouble in California. I know people will still do it. I found this out some years ago that it's pretty much banned in California, so you just want to just stay away from it. Even if it's not technically codified that way, stay away from it. My personal opinion, but I believe it is law now. It's first qualified applicant is who you rent to. So if anyone wants to elaborate on that, we talked about this at Masters.
Hey, Evan, along that line you were mentioning to sell a house. I'd like to know how many people in here, in lieu of renting, actually do owner carry back with a non-refundable deposit and skip all the burden of renting and all those regulations.
class number one. Here, Farrah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've sold my mobile homes on seller financing. So they give a down payment, usually somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, and then the balance they'll pay on a note. So I become the bank, like Goodwin, his class, be the bank, right? So that's pretty much what what he's teaching. But yeah, that's pretty much, you just, like, if something breaks, I mean, they can call me and I could offer, hey, here's a referral. That's pretty, or the first year I usually do, when I sell the home, I do give them a 1-year warranty through one of those home warranty programs.
First Republic or Home Republic or whatever.
Yeah. So.
I do that on my mobile homes and parks that I sell with when we sell them with a note. Yes. Otherwise, I keep the properties, and Bill Cook. Okay, you know what happened to him a few years ago, and I'll forever go with it. The property's better than the note, and I think he learned that lesson.
Wait, what happened?
Another thing. Here, Rudy. I'll explain if she says we have time.
I think we'd rather keep them, to be honest, if we had the option than the mobile homes and parks. It's because they won't let you sublet it. Most of them won't. That you have to finance it. But other than that, renting it is actually better than the note because it doesn't end. I guess the only plus to the note is that you don't have as much management headache. But that's it.
Yep.
I did meet someone. I went to Bob Zachmeyer's conference. He does like everything notes. And there's one guy I met had over, do you remember how many properties he had? 40 properties. And he used to manage all of them. And then one by one, he started selling them on seller financing. And he said he couldn't be happier. So, he's just getting mailbox money now. And he doesn't own the homes. So I think it's just like, where are you at in your journey? Are you starting out? He's like probably closer to the end of his journey. So, yeah. Mary first.
Going back to renting, also in the state of California, unless I'm wrong, you are required by law to take Section 8 applications. And you cannot discriminate when they call you and say, do you take Section 8? If you say you don't, you could get in a lot of trouble. You say, yes, I do. And I will, treat everybody the same. However, when you say 3 times the amount of the rent, for the Section 8 people, it's 3 times of their part, not the whole rent. So if they only pay $200, that means 3 times is only $600.
And one part of that is that California changed, my understanding is California changed the source of income requirements. So you cannot look at where the money's coming from, like Section 8, and then say, sorry, I don't accept that. And they changed the rules on that on several things. I don't know how far they did that. The reason why I bring that up is because I know if someone was on unemployment and they have 5 weeks left on their unemployment, how could I rent to them? They're going to lose their income. I haven't bothered to check that out, but funny, no one on unemployment has actually applied to any of my properties in a long time, so I haven't had to deal with that. Yes, Mark?
I'm here visiting from Texas, and what I learned many years ago, I've done over 300 deals, is keep the best and sell the rest. And so the mindset that I learned from somebody very wealthy is he said, if you sell everything, there'll be a day you're 65 plus and you wish you would have kept a few. The other flip side is there'll be a time when the inflation takes off and those good properties will double in value and you wish you would have kept a few. And he also said, if you buy in the best neighborhoods, now I buy only in Texas for rentals. Or I'll buy in landlord-friendly states, I'll put it that way. I'm now looking in Indiana. But I only plan to seller finance in California because of the laws, because of all the risk and headaches. But I also plan to take some of that money and use that money where I can cash flow even better. But the thing I've learned is that when those inflation times hit and when those notes pay off, you're going, where did all that money go? So John Shaw was one of the ones in Tilney too, that if you buy the right property in the right neighborhood, you're more likely to attract the right tenant. So in predominantly owner-occupied neighborhoods, it's great. Good school district, owner-occupied. If you get the right home, you'll attract the right tenant. And I've learned from Schaub and Tilney and these guys, you can get a good tenant, stays there 5-10 years, you've got virtually nothing to do. It's a golden handcuff tenant.
I will say also the single family versus multifamily. I started out doing mostly all multifamily, and I got rid of virtually all of them. And my multifamily were all like 3 units and 5 units. So I went to 1 and 2 units, and much happier, a lot less maintenance, a lot less headaches. So I'll still buy 3 units and 4, but I'm going to look at them differently and treat them differently and maybe not have them as long.
Can you explain a little bit, like you said, much less maintenance? Can you explain, like, because if I'm somebody who's like, oh, I got 3 units with 3 different plumbing systems, I would think, oh my gosh, it's 3 times the effort versus 3 units in one building. Can you explain your, like?
Different. Pete talked about this. Those of you who saw Pete last year, Pete talks about this. It's a different mindset of the person that wants to live on their own property, whether it's a mobile home or house. I notice the same with a fence around it. They want to be left alone usually. And when you have people with 3 doors right near each other, and even if they all park near each other, and you have a common wall, and someone's loud, and you have all that, you start dealing with other issues, and usually their mindset's different. They're not thinking, oh, I'm going to move into this apartment and stay for 5 years or 10 years as easily. They're a little bit more mobile. That's my understanding. That's kind of what I've been taught. That's what I saw firsthand. And plus the neighborhood mattered, picking better neighborhoods.
I was influenced by Jack Miller and John Schaub for a long time to not do apartments, but I've learned like anything else. There's good houses and bad houses, and good apartments and bad apartments. And we got a 41-unit apartment complex right now. And I actually, because it was smaller in San Antonio, I came on and was the on-site manager and got the software and everything else in. But, you know, the quality of properties you buy make a big difference. And then, of course, being able to get the systems and management and everything else in place. But with the 90 days, I had 100% occupancy. Every time I went vacant, we did for about $5,000, increased the rent, raised the rent from $850 to $975. We increased the value by 22% the first year. So, but 90+% of the apartments I look at are overpriced. So it's like everything else. I think the biggest challenge in this business is the patience to buy the right property and keep the right property versus the crap, because the crappy property attract crappy tenants.
I wanted to add, when Evan was telling the story about the multi-unit, Andrew, one of Andrew's cousins and his wife, they live in I think it's like a 4 or 5-plex or something like that. But one of the tenants there, like, will lock the gate that they need to drive into. They just do some weird stuff, and then their landlord isn't very responsive. But they're like, but we don't complain because our rent is cheap. So, I mean, I guess everyone.
Right. It also goes down to, if you're on starter, when we were doing $500 2-bedroom apartments in some neighborhoods, you know, again, it goes with the area, but again, you could get in for very little money to even buy them. But again, I've literally had that happen at another place, and yeah. So that's why I made the move mostly to single family, and still have 2 homes on a lot. But anyway.
Good? All right. Managing and executing agreements. So, sorry.
Yep.
Win
Okay, here,
has his hand up. Is it for
this.
the, yeah?
Yeah.
He's coming to you.
Yeah, I'm coming to you.
You definitely need a mic.
Well, this is just a question because I don't have any rentals, but I'm wondering if when you have somebody sign a lease, comes to rent, I assume that they come, you meet them there at the property and you have them sign. Do any of you insist that you have their signature notarized on that to protect you a little bit more than to have it signed without being notarized?
I'll go ahead and answer first. So the program I use, Rent Ready, they actually have a way I could upload the lease. It's kind of like DocuSign. And I meant to put a picture so you guys could see, because I knew I was going to talk about this, and I forgot. So I am so sorry. But if you really, really want to see it, just come ask me, and I could show you. But it actually, they electronically sign it, and then they have to take a picture with their ID next to their face. It dates it, stamps it, and everything. So that's what I do for my leases. I do tell that, I mean, I know David Tilney teaches that you sit down, you read through the whole thing with them. I tell them to read it and let me know if they have any questions. Maybe I do that wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm just being honest, you know.
They literally, we do everything up to the lease. They do online, and so they paid for it. They sent us their driver's license, etc. And then I sit down. I go through the lease. I spend an hour with them to go through it. I still do that personally. I don't farm that off to anyone else at this time. So, but then I get another copy of their driver's license at that time and Social Security numbers. So it's really, I've never had someone say it wasn't me that rented the place. But years ago in the beginning, I did have someone completely have fake ID and everything because he was a two-striker, and there was a lot of serious stuff going on, and he was wanted, and it passed our system. That's why we switched to a different system, because he got right by us, and it was not good. You wanted to say something?
Oh, no.
I thought you were waving.
And then to add, I do go over the house rules part or anything that like is not typical. So my co-living house, I do go over like the quiet hours and don't eat their food and that type of thing. So I do go over that. And then I don't know how Rent Ready does it, but they do verify the person to the picture, because I've actually had a couple get kicked out, and then they had to like talk to someone and answer a whole bunch of different questions, because either they didn't look like their picture or the ID wasn't clear when they took the picture. So I know they do follow up on if something was funny, but I don't know. I mean, those questions, it's like, what street did you live on? And it gives like 5 addresses and you only recognize the one, right? So it's something like that.
I had a question, well, obviously. So my mom is getting ready to rent a room in her house. And she really doesn't want an old person that's going to be there all the time and never leave. But at the same time, the picture she sent me to post don't have the living room or the family room in it. And I said, well, where's the living room and the family room? She's like, well, they have the bedroom and the kitchen. It shows the bedroom, it shows the kitchen, the front yard, and the backyard. She really doesn't want them just hanging out in the regular living spaces. How do you get around that?
I think she just needs to be clear, because it's a room in her house.
Yes.
So just when someone's coming, I would just be upfront, like, hey, I'm renting you the room. You have access in the kitchen, but it's just because certain people will say you have, kitchen privileges or these, laundry privileges. But it's most people that are renting a room stay in their room, to be honest with you. The tenant that finally gave his notice to leave, the girls that live, so there's 3 girls and then him, and they were all like, are you sure someone lives in that room? I'm like, yes, he lives in there. They're like, I haven't seen him. It's been like 3 months since they lived there. They never seen him because he just stays in there.
Yeah,
he comes home, goes to the room, goes to work, goes to the room. And then when they finally see him, you weren't lying, so they were all surprised. Like, I made him up.
Okay, so it's okay to just post the pictures of the kitchen,
front yard, I think that's better, because if you showed the other rooms, then that's almost saying like you can use that room. That's what I would think. It's her house, and I just have that honest conversation with the person renting the room. Like, hey, I'm renting you the room. I like this. I don't really want anyone lingering in this area. When I was looking for a room to rent before I decided just to get a roommate, every room I looked at, they were like, you can't have any guests. And at the time I was single. So I was like, well, I might have a guest.
I recommend everyone go get the California Tenant Handbook. It is very informative. I just looked this up. They haven't changed it, and it's been several years, because I wanted to make sure I had the latest edition, because I had to look something up the other day. And Angela and I were talking. You can get a PDF. I had printed copies for a while. I'd get it. It's very thorough. It does explain a lot what you're allowed to do, and it deals with how to handle the return of a security deposit, what you can say in an ad, what can you not say. It's like, I don't know, 50 pages or something, 8.5 by 11. It's actually pretty well done. So I highly recommend to get that to investigate your answers, because I believe it deals with room sharing as well, or house sharing. California Tenant Handbook, California Landlord Tenant Handbook. I have a PDF copy. Just go to the California site, you'll see it.
Hey, what do you guys think about allowing pets? How about insurance and all
Emotional
that?
support pets you can't turn away. So
Okay. Yeah, I realize
service
that.
animals, you can't turn them away. I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, if someone wants to elaborate on that, because that did come up recently, because for a while I know it was a gray area, but yeah, because there's a lot of internet providers that would say, here, your emotional support dog.
Oh, I do ask for it, and they do give it to me. But it's so easy to get an emotional support dog certificate. Gosh.
Yeah, and she's right. You can't deny them.
There's also petscreening.com that David Tilney talks about.
Richard uses that.
I haven't used it yet because people say, can I have a dog? And I'm like, well, you're with 4 other people in the house. And, it's kind of like I have the quiet hours and the dogs bark in the middle of the night, that type of thing. I do have the tenant in the back unit. She does have a cat. And then she paid a pet deposit and she pays a monthly rent. So, I feel like typically people that have pets, people have a heart for pets, usually they're nice people. So it just depends on I shouldn't say depends on the situation. I'm trying to think of how do I want to say that, but.
Yeah, if someone's applying and they go, well, I have 2 dogs, I usually ask them questions. Say they're not emotional support dogs. And I may charge pet rent. A lot of times I won't, but the 3rd dog I will, and I write that in. It just depends. Because most of my tenants do not have dogs, but some do. Okay.
I'm curious,
So
Jeremy,
it
do
just depends on what it is.
Jeremy, do you allow pets in your rentals? He does. Do you have a maximum or like of a certain amount of pets? I was just curious because I kind of like the idea of because the mobile home parks, a lot of them that I'm working in, they'll have like a 2 pet maximum. Doesn't matter if it's a cat or a dog. 25 pounds. Yeah. So it's like maybe a weight limit or breed restrictions. So, and then Ella had a question or a comment, and then we'll go to Mark.
Okay.
Oh, after Mary.
Real quick. This last lady I had, she said it was an emotional support dog. So I said, okay, fine, no problem. You can't charge them a deposit or anything. And then I said, well, what kind of dog is it? Because I allow 1 medium dog. She said it's a cane corso. Is that what she said? And I thought, what the hell is a cane corso? So I went and looked it up. I went, oh, holy moly.
A horse?
Yeah, you can't do anything. It's an emotional support dog.
Emotional support horse.
They actually had to make rules on the airplane for that. We're taking miniature horses.
Birds. They were taking birds on airplanes, calling them support. So my question goes back to that tenant handbook. You were saying that they've had it and there's been no changes or anything? But with all those new laws.
I know I didn't see any updates on it. Even
Yeah.
though I know that there's some new rules. I just know that we looked it up and didn't see it. So, good point. Take it for what it is.
Okay.
But we just downloaded it again, but it still shows the last copyright of it. It was like 2018.
Oh, wow.
And so when we're downloading it, so again,
Okay.
great observation. But this is why we go to it and look at it and still look up these rules because they do change and some things go, that cannot be true. Guess what? We're in California. A lot of crazy stuff to be true. Just
And
keep that in mind.
Part B was based on the question that was asked in the back as far as the pets. So you take them, you don't take them, emotional support, all of that. But what about insurance? How does that work? Is it the tenant that's you guys require
Yes.
like insurance, or do you take on that insurance as far as a liability?
Yeah, well, here.
Thank you.
Well, the tenants should get a renter's policy, and that would cover the liability for their animals. The landlord should have a landlord's policy too, which acts as a backup. Yeah. In fact, on a standard, like a rental, like a what we call a dwelling fire policy or a renter's policy, both of those, the landlord and property manager is automatically an additional insured. So it's just included. Yeah.
I was going to speak to that. We do allow pets, but the number one risk we see is that a dog or a cat that's scared, especially like a neighbor's child come by, could scratch, could bite, something could happen, and it's pretty much an instant you loss. And of course, it's not the tenant that pays, it's the owner that pays. So we require all tenants that have pets to have the, what's that called? The renter's policy, but we make sure we read, and it has to be a renter's policy that covers a pet bite and scratch and all that, because there's exclusions sometimes. That's important. I'll hand it to you in a second. And then the other thing that we do regarding the pets, because also all pets are perfect. They don't crap, they don't pee, they don't scratch, they don't dig holes. And so we say with pets, because you're new, we inspect every 3 months. And so we have photos. We show very clearly. See, you notice everything. There's no scratches. We notice the door. There's no scratch. We go thoroughly, and we have like a whole separate page just about pets and what's normal. And even good pets will scratch. You're going to pay for it. Even good pets will dig holes in the yard. You're going to pay for it. We're going to check, and if there's a lot of dog, what's it call that? A handyman, a handy dog that leaves jobs around the yard. We will charge you if we see an excess amount. And here we have certain rules about how you have to, that's not in the yard and all that. So we've dealt a lot of problems with pets. So you're going to add something.
Won't they say, though, that that's part of the deposit? If their rent, if they're covering that, I would think that would be the mindset.
Talk about violating the agreement, the terms. And so we enforce it. And sometimes that's what we do, a 3-month. That's why some tenants, we have a 3-month. If we have any questions, slice question, we only do the 3-month, and they violate, yep, we're not going to renew. You're out. That's why. So if we get anybody that has, that's why we do those kind of shorter term to check them out.
I was just going to say, I speak in generalities. The standard, normal, general policy that's across all insurance carriers that they mostly all use, that's a policy that would cover the damage, animal liability. But today there's with insurance policies canceling, and you guys have probably seen some of that. Some of the policies coming through are kind of not as good, and that's where you might, on the liability side, see animal exclusions, pet exclusions. Also, and there's one more thing that I just thought of is property damage is not caused. There's an exclusion on every property policy for marring and scratching. So it's marring and scratching. So animals that just like scratch a door down, and then you're the landlord and you want to file a claim because the tenant's dog destroyed my house, that's not covered, and it never will be.
And remember that in California, the new deposit laws are changing in June or July. And my understanding, because I checked this and I do not know this for sure, my understanding is that the pet deposit is not a separate deposit. It's still they're lumping that together. So if you charge a pet deposit extra, you can still only do 1 month of what the first month is. The same after June 1st, July 1st. So you can't do 2 months unless it's furnished. I think you can do 2 months, I think, because now it's 3, I think. I think it's 3 months.
What's considered furnished, like a chair, bed?
No, I don't know. I just know that they changed it to 1 month.
Dishes.
And so if you have a pet deposit, I think that's included in that. And so just keep that in mind. Could be wrong about that. But you won't be able to make it more than 1 month of rent now.
Yeah, so if rent is $1,500, you can only do $1,500. You can't do 2x anymore.
Right. Yeah. Unless it's, I think if it's furnished, can you still do a second month? I think you can, but just look it up. I don't have any furnished properties, but again, that goes back to pet rent. By the way, I know the lease Richard uses, which he does do a lot of what Tilney does, that he lets the tenant know that if we see a dog on the property after you sign, because I'll tell you this, we have not only do we have a pet lease, we have a no pet option. So if they don't have a pet movement, they sign saying they do not have one. Okay, and then I've gotten lackadaisical on enforcing that at times. But I know Richard on his, he'll say, if we see a dog, you said no dog, we see a dog here 6 months from now, we're going to charge you pet rent and pet deposit all the way back to the day you moved in, not when the dog got here. And again, the other part is no pet means no pet. You can't babysit your friend's dog.
And then I do have in my lease that if they were to get a dog, that they have to ask permission. First. And then I do, yes, first, and to get approval. So I'm not saying no pets. I had to remember for a second. So, and Ebony has a question?
Yeah, I'll come back.
One sec. But for the recording purpose, it's not going to pick up your voice,
And
so that's why we want the mic.
I'd say this, those of you who are landlords, you ever have someone move in their boyfriend or girlfriend?
Yep.
So they'll move in a dog if they can get away. They think they can get away with it.
Boyfriend and a cat. Remember that?
Do goldfish and birds count as pets? I know it's a silly question, but
I personally, I only cats and dogs, because birds in a cage, it's not going to it should be in a cage. Personally, I think birds should be free. But, yeah.
But they're so tasty.
I have one more. When we do the release and we have all the paperwork, we also have a checklist, and they go through the whole house, mark whatever they want. But we, in addition to that, take pictures of them doing all this, especially everything that they mark, so that when they leave, they get a copy of this and say, okay, you're leaving, now we're going to do the exit thing. So anything you didn't mark the first time, then it must have been you, including pictures of them in it, so they can't say, well, I didn't do it.
I believe I haven't done this before, but I know David Tilney talks about what he does is the new tenant coming in checks off everything, and then that's the check for the old tenant. But then you let the new tenant know it's going to be the same for you when you move out. The new tenant is going to do the checklist for you. So we have a checklist that we do while we're standing there as they walk the properties as they're moving in, and we do that at move out most of the time. But now we put everything in Buildium as well. So we put the photos of as they move in. We put the photos. We just started doing this. We put the photos that move in Buildium, so it's there. So they can't say, "Oh no, it's there." So we just started doing that. That's cool. Did I see another hand? I thought I saw a hand. No. All right. Thank you for sharing. This is great. You guys know a lot more than I do. All right. So just I just want to go over like a recap. If anyone has any additional questions or something you wanted to share that you thought of, but you're like, oh, I didn't. Sometimes people want to share something and then they don't have the time.
I'll go here. And while I'm walking, I'll share something. Something that I made a mistake recently, and I already knew this because I did this years ago. Don't have the same rent on multiple properties. Change it by a few dollars. For years, they were always separate. And then recently, I rented 3 places on the same street, the same dollar amount, because we had a brain fart. So if it comes in, if they deposit and they don't mark what it's for, we have to sit there and go, which unit is this? And it just sucks. So don't do that. I just did that last year.
So we were at the walkthrough in Muscoy the other week. So imagine a U-Haul truck pulling up, a couple of guys get out and start moving furniture into the house, saying, we have a rent. The sheriff won't do anything because it's a civil issue. What do we do then?
Talking about people coming in with a fake rental agreement or someone that was scammed by somebody else and think they have a real rental agreement and then they're moving in. Anyone want to tackle this? Anyone have thoughts before we'll start sharing? Who's dealt with that before?
I mean, I've had people move in that weren't supposed to move in. But
Yeah. You've dealt with that before?
Hold on.
No, here,
one second.
we can talk about this.
So at a rental house where this guy will go serially from house to house with fake leases, he'll steal the mail, get the name of the owner, and create a lease. He broke into my house that was vacant for a little bit, and he found my name. He wrote a lease. He found the extra keys that I left there because we were repairing the property. So he had a set of keys, and the sheriff came when I called the sheriff, and he's like, he has a lease. You got to go to civil court. Luckily, he had brought his girlfriend over. They separated the two, and she confessed that they broke in through the garage. They saw the damage of the broken door and arrested him because of that.
When was this?
About 2 years ago.
Yeah, so they chose to do their jobs is what they did. Seriously, yeah.
For a second there, they were already going away.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share on that
LA?
before we will?
Start
LA?
walking
Yeah,
this
here.
way.
Okay.
Meet him halfway.
So similarly, like the gentleman just spoke, I had some good friends of mine that in Moreno Valley, they went away for vacation for a while, like a month or so, and they came back and they could not get into their house, and they couldn't figure out why the keys to their house that they own, they could not get in. And when they called the police came and the same thing. Basically, the guy had created a lease, and the police left because they were like, this is his lease. And they're like, well, we own it, but they couldn't get all their documentation. So they actually had to go to court, same thing, but they could not get into their house for some time because this guy had done basically the same thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, be careful when you come back from vacation, yeah.
Can't you just wait until they leave the house? Like if they leave the premises, you go back in. They have no proof that they're supposed to actually be there. I'm just saying.
Except for the fake lease if they have it. Okay,
I'm like, does it have my signature on it?
Now you're thinking like someone who wants to solve a problem, but we'll share about that. You want to tackle this, or I'll share about a guy I know. Okay, I had this happened to a close enough friend of mine, who she called me and said someone had applied for her unit that was kind of far, and they had applied for it, and during the process they asked, well, can I read the lease that I'm about to sign? So she sent them her lease. Okay, and so she did. This person ghosted her. Okay, she then re-rents the unit because a couple weeks later, and then she finds out someone's moved into that house, been there for a couple weeks. And so she's about to have someone else come and is going to move in at the end of the week. What is she going to do? And she told me this after, but someone had told her I guess what she should do is she got a couple friends, and turned out that they had another lease, and they squatted the squatter. So what she did is she drove up there to the property, and her friends they had a lease, a legal valid lease, and walked in and changed the locks, and they were going to sit there, three burly guys, and sit down on the couch, and they were that's what they're going to do. They have a lease too, and she just sat back around the corner. Of course, person came back who was a gal, screaming she's going to call the sheriffs. She showed up and said, call the sheriffs. What do they see? Two people with leases. So the sheriffs are looking at it. It's kind of rural. The sheriffs there use their head, and they're like, well, let's look at the leases. So they looked at the lease that the squatter had provided, and my friend said, that's the lease I sent them. Notice how I never signed it. Never had signed it. And so after pressing them, and then the other guy saying, well, we signed the lease. We have a legal right to be here. We're staying. And these were, I guess, three burly guys. Well, the person there was kind of uncomfortable, didn't want to stay either. That was the idea. Well, the police, during the investigation, at that moment, it came out that the woman pretty much admitted, they figured out, like, how fast can you get your butt out of here? And this was like on a Sunday. And the sheriff said, we'll be back on Tuesday. They gave her to Tuesday to leave. And they showed back up on Tuesday, sheriffs, and she was out. So the sheriff used her head again and just kind of went, okay, but it was a civil matter. But she was squatting the squatter, which, as you know, a new term. A lot of people are starting to do it. But yeah. Oh, I just saying, it's squatting the squatter, right? If someone leaves and you break in, because say it happens to her and she breaks into her own place with a friend and says, "Here I am." I'm not saying to do that, but if someone were to do that and the police show up and they have two competing, well, guess what? Well, at least you have your place while you're fighting it out if the person does anything about it. But if they really are a victim of somebody else, you've still got a problem. So, there's a guy back east that just did this, made a lot of news, and he squats the squatters now. It was his mom's place a couple months ago. Google it. It's a great story.
Okay. I was going to just, something my tenant, he asked me if he could get a roommate because he wanted to like have cheaper rent. And I was like, well, are we adding them to your lease or are you doing your own? Like, how are you doing that? Because, so we came to the conclusion he was still responsible for the rent. And I said, it's fine that someone moves there. She stopped paying rent to him. And what he did, I was just thinking of the three burly guys. So what he did, he's very handy. And the way the house is, the 2 rooms are upstairs. And then he was staying in like the living room, but it has a door. And then the door goes to the kitchen. And then it goes upstairs. And then the bathroom is like right near the stairs. So what he did is he put a temporary wall with a door that could lock so he could still get to the bathroom, but then she couldn't access the kitchen she was eating his food. I mean, it was just horrible. And I'm like, the only thing you can do is go through an eviction because, she's your tenant. She's not my tenant. So, but she moved out. So
I will say I did have, this is something that was recommended to me, and I did do this, where I bought a place and someone had broken in, and I was worried about the previous tenants or whoever had broken in coming back. No, not the previous tenants, because I moved them to another place. But I was worried about who was there was going to come back, and there was a lot of in the news. A lot of people were breaking in fake leases and stuff. So I pulled up one time the next day after someone broke in, and I swear I saw movement inside. So I called the police. And I had said, I waited for a sheriff. It was like 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. And I waited, and so I met the sheriff. A couple squad cars showed up. Because I said, I'm armed. I'm on my property and I'm armed and I want to go in, but I think I should wait. So guess what? They respond. And I waited. And so what they did is I said, someone broke in last night. I thought I saw movement because we have sheets up. I couldn't tell. They said, no one's there. But now I met the two different policemen who were in the area. And I said, nobody is supposed to be here after hours. And so I basically was kind of letting them know. So if anyone tries to get in, if you drive by extra, they said, sure. So a couple days later, we thought we had another issue. And guess what? Flagged down another officer, was one of those guys. I said, no, we're checking. They checked the house again. They're good. Because I wanted them as my ally at the same time to know, hey, no, this guy said no one's going to be in here for months because we're fixing it up. So I've heard someone else say every time they have a property like that, they call and ask for a check on the property, and can I get extra patrols because someone's messing with my property, et cetera. They say that. I literally had someone break in, so I could say that in all honesty. I'm just saying, but that way they're aware of it, they're keeping an eye on it. In theory, all right, so if you call and say, hey, someone has this fake lease, well, maybe they'll be positive view. Maybe not, just saying.
Anyone else have a story to share? I saw Jeremy smiling back there. Did you have one? I feel like
I asked him. He's got stories. He just doesn't want to say.
Give at least one story, like your favorite story.
All right, here.
Maybe your favorite worst story or one of those.
Did I tell you guys about the story in Moreno Valley? I feel like I did, right? Like someone. I think I did not. I think I told the group in the interview.
I feel like a lot. Who was here for Jeremy when we did the landlord panel? So there's only a few of us here. So yeah.
Okay, so we had we're renting this house in Marina Valley, and we had someone go to the house and they pretended to be a tenant, and then they approached one of the real potential tenants, and they said, "We're in charge of renting." Like they must have done it outside the house because my employee didn't see them. Oh, and also they went in the house and they unlocked one of the windows. So they're outside the house. They tell this person, "Hey, I'm in charge of all the renting for this area. So submit all your applications to me." So this person did, and then they're like, "Okay, you're approved. We're going to meet you on this day to get the deposit, rent, everything." So the day comes around, and they call that potential tenant, and they say, "I was in a car accident. I can't get to the property, but just go ahead and sell me everything." And but for situations like this, we leave a window unlocked for emergencies. So you can go to the house and you can, after you sell me, you can just open the window, go through the window, and then you can start moving your stuff in, and I'll come by later and give you the keys. And so this person, they started moving their stuff in. They had like their couch and everything, and finally they decided to call the office because they're like, "Hey, it's like about 5 o'clock and I don't have a key, and how am I gonna, So then we show up. We're like, "Hey, we never rented you the house." We called the police, and luckily, the police showed up, and I mean, this person was crying, but they left. They moved all their stuff back in the U-Haul and they left.
I just like my stomach. I'm like, man, I just feel for the people that are getting scammed. It sucks.
My story, I was on the call list for our church. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I got a call, someone has broken into the church. So I got dressed and went down. A police car was leaving the parking lot as I got there. Another police car was still sitting there. And so I pull in. The guy that was still there, he says, "Well, we caught the burglar, and so we're taking him to jail." And so he's ready to get in his car. I said, "Oh, wait a minute." I said, "Did you go in and check to see if he had a partner?" Well, it was the only one we saw. I said, "Would you mind going through the church with me?" And, well, he said, "I'm sure it's okay." But as we walked in, he had his hand on his pistol. As we walked in, had a flashlight in the other hand, and went to all the cupboards and the hidey places throughout the church. Fortunately, there wasn't anybody else. But he was going to leave me there at 1 o'clock in the morning going in, and there could have been a partner there. So when you talk about going in to check, if you have to call the police and they come out to check, make doggone sure that they check inside, make sure nobody's hiding in the closet.
Oh, yeah. Yay, another story.
So this has been since he said this. I totally forgot about this. This was it's not even a tenant issue, but there was a house we were doing a rehab, and my contractor, he calls me. He's like, "There's a gun in the closet in the master bedroom." And I said, "Okay." Well, I said, "Let's just call the police." So me and him are standing outside and waiting for the police. The police take like 2 hours to show up, and they get to the house. We walk the house with the police, and the gun is gone.
Yeah. Guy was still in the house. Or came back, right? Yeah, let me tell you something. If you're not sure about something, definitely have the police come and check the house. I've had people break in while I was there, or attempt to. I've had people going out the back as I've come in, and then we confront them, and they brandish a knife, and they actually got a felony against them. I've held people at gunpoint because I went into one of my places, and that someone kicked in. I really didn't think anyone was in there at 3 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon, but I saw the door kicked in. I was like, "Oh, I'll get my gun." And I was on my property. I could legally do that because I'd been going shooting earlier in the day. So kind of convenient. I went in, and there were I turned out to be some scared kids in the back. I didn't know that, but I had bought the place because the homeowner who sold me the house had 3 property managers quit because they'd been chased out by various homeless people and assaulted by either knife or screwdriver. So I knew this house had a history. The This is near Old Town Victorville where I started. It was a pretty bad area. But anyway, so yeah, I went in there and realized I left those doors open yesterday. Now they're all closed, and then the toilet flushed. And I had 4 doors shut, and I'm down a hallway, and I have my gun clearing a house. Like, oh, this is how you're trained to do it, right? And
You've seen the movie, right?
Your adrenaline kicks in. I retreated back, and I start screaming, waiting, going, please, hopefully they come out, because I didn't want to. Anyway, it was just some kids came out, some teenagers that were looking for a place to sleep for the night. I'd tell you what, after I chewed them out and screamed at them and said, I could have shot you, don't you know? Tell everyone never had problems at that house again. Really, but it did it. So again, if I go by a house and I see a door kicked in, it's 11 o'clock at night, I ain't going in. I don't care, armed or not armed. Call the police.
I had a gentleman tell me that if you put a no trespassing sign on your vacant home and you submit it, and I don't know where he said to submit it, if any squatters go in there, you can have them taken out immediately because you have a no trespassing sign. I don't know how true that is. I didn't follow up with it, but we, in our last one, had cameras, and we give all our neighbors our business cards, so if anything happens, they call us, and we're looking in the cameras all the time.
I was going to say that at the last several properties, we have some that we have cameras up. Not everywhere, but we have some. Because for our vacancy, it's going to be a couple weeks. It's a lot of work. But the ones that are projects, we've done that with the cameras. And all the neighbors get our cards. Plus, that's a contact. Okay? No, I've heard that. And by
What
the
was
way,
the question?
About the no trespassing signs. I have actually heard that. And I also know that I was told, not told, I read that some cities in a couple places, I don't think it was California, promoted this, and I don't know if it passed. I don't know anywhere this passed, where you could go down to the local police department and file a vacancy. Hey, this place is going to be vacant until I rent it, and you could file, pay $100 or whatever, so that if anything happened before you came back, you could go down, then police could just kick the people out. That was the idea, but I don't know if it actually been implemented everywhere. I thought it was a brilliant idea, and I'd be glad to pay it, but. And I forgot what the term is. If someone, anyone ever hear that someone was talking about that? Yeah.
Thank you, Evan. Everyone give Evan a round of applause.
Yeah, as far as all the trespassing things, I know like in Temecula and all the other places, I know with businesses, they'll have these little trespassing letters. You can go to like the police station or sheriff's department. If you have someone there, they'll arrest them. It's obviously like the crime. They'll take them in for that. Trespassing signs, that helps. But if you're actually there and you guys get someone, you can sign like a private person, like arresting or have them arrested. But the only thing is it'll either be a citation and they'll just get released there, unless it's like one of those higher end cities and they'll actually book everybody in for everything. So just food for thought.
It actually ties into the story I was going to tell really well. So when Andrew and I were still living at our property, we were in the back house and we're renting out the front. We would sometimes leave the driveway goes to the back, and there's like parking in between the two houses. So we would leave the gate open, and we saw this one guy. Was it in the middle of the night the first time? Right. So this guy like walked in, and our cameras picked him up. We're like, what? And he just like walked around, basically looking at what we like. You could just tell he was checking out the property. And then left. We're like, what the heck? And then the very next day, was it when you were coming home? Sorry, I have a really bad memory. When he was coming home, and one of my tenants was like, hey, that guy came back. And then, right? Oh my God, maybe you should tell the story. But yeah, give him a mic, and then he could help me out. So you tell the beginning part, because I wasn't there. You were there.
Yeah, so some guy was scoping our place the night before, and then I think it was the next day, he ended up coming back, and then I saw him on the camera, so I...
oh, you were home. That's
home.
Right. Oh, no, you were talking to one of the tenants in the back. That's right.
It was Tana, our oldest tenant. And then we
Now I
confronted him, and he started leaving. He started walking away. He got scared. We ended up... actually, when we were walking him out of the property, police... unit was driving by, and we waved him down, and he pulled over and he asked us what was going on, and we told him, hey, this guy's trying to break into our house. So he ended up stopping him. He ended up actually arresting him.
Was we signed
Yeah, we signed
the
it.
citizen arrest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the part that they told us was, well, you don't have any signs saying that he couldn't go back there. So now we have no trespassing signs on both gates and we keep them locked. I mean, so that way it's clear that they're trespassing, because he might have thought it was a street. That's what they told us. Yeah. And they're like, well, how long is he going to be in for? Because, I mean, kind of like, is he going to retaliate, you know? And they're like, yeah, we'll book him and he'll be out in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, they'll sign release on the spot, too. Yeah, I have a caretaker that moves around from site to site. I've employed her for about 2.5 years now. I pay her park her RV on our properties.
This is not about a rental property, but as we've been talking about scams, can I share something that I'm going through right now?
Go for it.
So my name is Lee Miller, and I get mail for Leslie Miller. And I think, well, maybe one time I filled out a credit application, and I'm pretty well known for having sloppy handwriting, so I just figured that I wrote Lee Miller, and some idiot responded to it as being Leslie Miller. Well, I sell solar, and solar we have to do title checks as far as who's on the property. And I looked up my own house, and there's 3 people on title. And I'm like, wait a second. My wife and I is 2 people. Who's this Leslie Miller person? So now I got to go and file a new deed and kick off whoever this person is on my house. So just something you guys got to be aware of is that people can file deeds on your properties and all this stuff, and you have no clue what's going on.
That is a whole new business now, and there's companies now that are saying they'll you can pay them and they'll watch your title for you. Anyway, keep an eye on your properties, people.
So how many years do you have to let new tenants that someone pass away in the property by law? 3? Okay, so my house never been for rent, and I'm going to rent out my house soon. My dad passed away in my home 2 years and 5 months. So since my house is never been for rent, do I have to tell the new tenants that someone dies? He dies because natural causes.
Yeah, I was going to say not when you rent. I was going to ask you, you're an agent, right? Is there still an exclusion when people pass away in the house for certain deaths that you don't have to tell them? Yeah. Yeah, for a while there was an exclusion if it was HIV related. There was an exclusion for HIV related deaths because it would prejudice the buyers, it hurt, so you did not have to disclose that, even though there was virtually no chance, just because of people's mindset, that you did not have to tell them if that happened. Just, at least that's how it was for years. I still operate under that, but I'm not an agent. And as far as rentals, I don't know that. Anyone know that for sure about rentals? Yeah, I've never come across that.
As an agent, I usually tell my clients, your neighbors know you and everybody knows you. The new buyers could move in, and technically you're not supposed to tell them or don't have to after 3 years, but they're going to tell them anything and everything that's happened to your house. It's better to disclose it and let it be.
That's smart.
I'll just say this: disclosures is always, when you sell, disclosure is your friend. But I did almost rent a house and put I was going to put a paranormal clause in it for the tenant to let them know that there was an issue. They were worried because they knew the house, and they were worried. And what if I move in and there's problems? And I said, I will literally write a clause that says you can move right out with notice. Okay, so I ended up we found her a different place, but yes.
California law says for rentals, yes, you have to disclose.
Really? Thank you, I learned something. Oh,
Thank
so
you.
it's only like 5 months old. That's why I probably just, okay. All right, thank you for looking that up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, now I know.
Any final questions for the night before we call it? Anybody? All right, we have Mike way in the back. Hold on, Mike.
This is back to the 30-day rental agreements. Does anybody, once you have, like if you do a 1-year lease and it automatically goes to month after that, do you just, for if that tenant stays for 4 or 5 years, you just go off that original lease that turned into
Yes.
30 days? You don't update the 30
I'm
day?
working on updating my lease currently. So one of my tenants keeps breaking the washing machine I have provided for them. So our deal is I am buying a new washer and dryer. And then if it breaks, then they'll split the cost of it evenly. So I'm adding that into my lease. So and then I'm doing the whole, if they don't want to fix it, then they can buy their own. David Tilney has a thing in his lease that all the appliances are in the home as storage. If they don't want them, he'll remove them. And if they break, he'll remove them, but they have to fix it or replace it. But then people are like, oh, I don't want to buy one, so they'll keep it. So I have that in my lease now. I just didn't have it in my other property for the washer and dryer, so I'm adding that.
With a month-to-month lease, do they still have to give 30 days notice before they move?
Yes.
Some of the tricks I learned from Mr. Landlord is about the premium services. Oh, did you want a fan? Well, we will provide a fan as a little extra. Oh, did you want a computer for your child? Well, we'll lease you that a month to month. Oh, would you like, so, how can you sell them all these different things? And then depending, if you look at what it costs you for these appliances and what you charge them, it's a pretty good ROI. So that's
Right.
a little
That's like
trip
renting
level.
refrigerators. But then if you're renting the refrigerator or a washer and dryer, then it's on you to repair them. So I just bought a new stackable washer and dryer for my sister, but we moved her a few times, and now I have a brand new stackable washer and dryer at a place, and I'm going to I'm moving it to a place that is really, that's the only thing you can fit. And I'm going to ask if they want it, because they can't put a traditional one. I'll do that extra. I think I'm going to do it for about $100 a month, because those are $1,500 new, and even used, they're $600, $700. So I'm just haven't determined the price. If not, maybe $75 a month.
That's a pretty good idea with all the stuff you guys are talking about. I didn't think about that as a premium, but do you guys ever, as you guys doing rentals, do you guys ever use like the little insurance home shield thing replaces that, so now you're recuperating the cost, like you're kind of double backing on your money? Or is that not a good idea for any reason?
I want to hear what you have to say, because I think
No,
some
I was
sparks
just going
in
to
there.
say we had various insurance policies on our rentals, and whenever we go to fix it, by the time we went through to pay the copay, then had someone come out, pick a water heater, for example. I had an insurance policy on that, and by the time it was done, my part to put a new, even though I'm fully insured, the new water heater, my out-of-pocket was $1,200. My guys can install one for $1,200. But that was because, now you need a gas trap and a licensed plumber that they come out versus a licensed plumber I have a relationship with that'll give me discounts. All right, see the difference? But literally by the time we're done, plus my guys, hey, Jeff, I'm in a jam, my tenant's in a jam. Can you be here tomorrow versus waiting 3 or 4 days for them to come out and go, oh, we got to get this. Oh, and now it's tomorrow. Now it's a week. And you're having a whole nother upset tenant. I want my rent now, but I'll fix it now. But so that's my experience. That's just the way it's been. And I find that we just said, screw it. Even though we have insurance, we'll just do it ourselves. It's just easier for tenants, for me. Well, would you be mad if you didn't have hot water for a week and a half? Yeah. But 2 days, 3 days? Not so much, because we're trying. So even 4 days. but a week and a half, no, it's happened a couple times, and so, but it'll protect your butt on the bigger ticket items. But yeah, that's just me.
I feel bad for Evan having to walk all the way over there.
Don't.
You all have to be very careful with these insurance policies, and yes, for the bigger ticket items, that is a decent thing to have, but make sure you know what is covered and what isn't. My aunt got insurance on her house, and it included everything down to the refrigerator, and she literally went without a refrigerator for almost 2 months. She called, and it got to the point where management didn't even talk to her or acknowledge her. Oh, is that her calling again? And it's just, it was really, really bad. It literally took her over 2 months to get a refrigerator. It was bad.
So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all. Before we fully take off, this is obviously a pretty good topic to talk about for all you members. We do have a members only Facebook group page where if you have a question or you're just not sure about something, so like when you asked about your rental and if, like, hey, when do I have to disclose that? That'd be a great question to put in there. And there's several of us that will go in and answer. And that way you don't have to wait until Wednesday to ask us questions.
And don't hesitate to ask a question because we learn too, just like what she just pointed out. That's how we learn as well when we check that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the point of tonight because, I have my way of doing things, Evan, and then several of you have shared. And so I appreciate all your perspectives. Thank you so much. And see you in 2 weeks. Nothing next Wednesday.